Hi, my name is JoAnna Contarino. I'm a senior at Rowan University. I was invited to talk to you guys today about my journey into college, how I got there as a first generation student, someone who started later in life doing college. Um, yeah, the other thing that I was asked to talk about was my environmental organizing work with the New Jersey Student Sustainability Coalition, which is a mouthful, abbreviated to NJSSC. Um, yeah, so basically, being a first generation college student, um, I didn't grow up, hearing about college or understanding what it was or how it could be beneficial to me in the long run. None of that clicked in my mind at any point because no one was really talking about it at any point. Basically, senior year of high school, I took college prep and I was like, oh, this is real. People really do this. Yeah, so that was the first time that I really actually saw college as an option for me. And at the time, the only thing I was passionate about was photography. So um, that's kind of where my mind went. So I applied to school to, be a photography major. I quickly realized that that was like super expensive. You would have to pay for tuition, room, board, and all the materials for a photography hobby, which is just yeah, just wasn't for me. I'm not that exceptional of a photographer, so I decided to just nix college in the bud altogether. I was just like, no, I'm not going to do this. I went to work at a grocery store, um, moved around departments in there, which was really fun and interesting, but eventually it just got really boring. And I realized, this isn't how I'm going to live the rest of my life. I'm not going to be at a grocery store forever. So I better start kind of finding something that I care about that I can, dedicate my life to. The first step that I took there was that I decided that I would volunteer at a few different types of organizations because I'm the kind of person. I care about justice issues. I care about like community and all this kind of stuff that I feel like is really important in life. So I volunteered with cat rescues, homeless outreach, and then the last thing that I found was environmental organizations that were fighting for stuff like stopping pipeline projects, doing community gardens, like, run the gamut and things that are environmentally focused. And that's where I really found that I could combine a lot of my different interests that I had. Um, Obviously, if you think about it in terms of like the environment is like the only thing that everything is made of and everything comes from that, and we all have that in common. It's pretty easy to see that you can kind of do anything you want with that in a way. You can work in environmental stuff in like business, or you can simply conserve wildlife. But um, I guess where my interests lie now that I've kind of been at it for a long time is in like the environmental justice space and climate justice space, where it combines like racial justice and human rights issues with the environmental movement. Because communities of color and low income communities, first island nations, that kind of stuff, are the ones that are going to feel the impacts and are already feeling the impacts of climate change and simply just getting bad polluting things in their neighborhoods because no one else wants them and because people don't respect them. Um, yeah, so obviously, like the Black Lives Matter movement is really important for the environmental justice movement because there's supreme overlap because not only is there police brutality, but there is a real problem with pollution causing asthma and other types of, diseases like cancer and stuff. So that is what I focus on now and what I find to be very important to act on. So when I went to college, I was kind of thinking, I'll go because I want to be a better activist. So maybe not the reason why a lot of people go to college, but I also didn't want to pay for college, being that I was going to go into the social change and environmental movement, which doesn't always pay very well. So I needed to have some kind of backup plan. And the backup plan for me was that, okay, maybe I'll find a way not to pay for it. So if you graduate debt free, you won't have to kind of be overburdened with trying to find like a successful career that would help you pay that off in a short amount of time and kind of, hinder what I can do in this space. So I found out that, at Rowan, if you worked full time, you could get your tuition waived. So that's what I've been doing for the past 5 years. I've been working as an overnight janitor, 40 hours a week, as well as full time school and extracurriculars and all that kind of stuff, which has been really difficult. But I think what's really important and what I really want people to understand about my story is that the reason that I do all the stuff that I do is because I really, really, truly care about what I'm working towards. Um, I feel like that wouldn't be the same if I had like a parent or societal pressure on me to kind of, become a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it is that people get pressured into doing, which isn't necessarily bad. It's just bad for people like me that kind of grew up, with more independence. And that independence is a real source of pride for me. And I'm very proud of what I did. Um, yeah, so that's kind of how I got to college. And now that I'm here, I mean, there's certain things that I think as a first generation student, I don't understand quite the way that other people do. Stuff like transactional relationships. So, you know, being friends with someone simply for the benefit of like studying or learning from them, that kind of thing, isn't something I grew up with or kind of understood. Or like this idea that people are like truly, truly motivated by getting to the top. I don't know. I just, my perspective is that I want to do the best that I can do, for people around me and the things that I fight for. Um, so again, I'm not saying that any of the things that people do that I'm mentioning are bad. It's just different for me and not something that I focus on. Um, so of course, working full time and doing all that kind of stuff in the beginning of my college career, I didn't actually do a lot of the environmental activism and advocacy work that I was doing before I went to college. I had to kind of put that on the back burner as I adjusted to a nighttime schedule. Um, Third shift is very, very bad for your health and your well being. I wouldn't suggest it really, unless you absolutely have to do it. But there's ways to work around that. And, the way I did it was I kind of slowly got into building like back into my activism work. So eventually, I think it was my maybe like the beginning of my junior year, I decided to, volunteer with the Rowan Environmental Action League, which is the environmental group on campus. And I started doing campus environmental organizing work, fighting for limiting single-use plastics, working on sustainability plans, like that kind of stuff that was, really important to change the place that I was at right then. And then I found out about the New Jersey Student Sustainability Coalition from someone who was a member of that group. And then what I found in the New Jersey Student Sustainability Coalition is everything that I care about and stand for in life. I was like, oh, wow, there's a place that I can do the organizing work that I was kind of doing before college, community work, statewide work, focusing on policy and that kind of stuff that I kind of gravitate towards because, if it's policy, it's more likely to do something, right? Hopefully. I mean, I also believe that social change is really important in changing minds and attitudes around the environmental movement is really important. But stuff like holding like big polluters responsible and that kind of stuff is where you need to get into the weeds of policy and kind of make sure that they are being held responsible for what they have been doing to us. And yeah, so environmental organizing work is just kind of, I don't know, it's just a culmination of everything that I've ever wanted to do. You have, relationship building with people, building partners and coalitions, and making sure that your alliance is going to be like the strongest force for good in the state. And then also just the passion of the issues, being able to work with people that care about the same issues that I do, being able to like, since it's a high school and college network, there's some high schoolers that are obviously better organizers than me. So learning from people in high school, learning from people at other colleges, getting to really dive deep into like what people want to work on and what issues they care about. And especially because the environmental movement, like I've already said, is so broad. I have conversations with people all the time about like issues that I never even really thought about. And I think that the good thing about having this statewide coalition with students is that as soon as someone joins, you just add a new perspective to what issues we all can work on together. And what better thing is there than to build community and build people power to change, our state. Um, and also, people are going to go all over the country, all over the world from, being in a group like this, having the skill set to kind of understand what is important and what actually does create change. Um, is really cool. So I'm just really excited to be part of this, and I'm glad that, I did find some time in my schedule to fit in the activism work that I really love. And I hope that, people are going away from this small conversation of me um, getting to understand, that it's all about, well, I don't want to say it's all about, but it is about, fulfilling your own self values. I think that, maybe society is pushing towards that narrative more than it has in the past. Um, and don't feel like, you have to change your whole life or uproot your life just because some one person decided to live by their values and found it successful. There are things in life that you cannot control sometimes. I'm a privileged person that, my parents let me stay here pretty much minimally rent free um, the entire time I've been going to school and working. And I just, I've had the opportunity to do this. If you don't have the opportunity to do this, don't feel bad about it. Just try your best. Try your best and feel free to reach out to me. You can get my information from Choma, and I'm sure she'll be happy to connect you if you have any questions or, want any kind of advice about being a first generation college student or an environmental organizer, anything like that. Awesome. Thanks, guys.